Welcome back, Moron Gang. I just had
Gang
to do that.
gang.
Yeah, it's a throwback to the Call Her Daddy podcast. It's a great podcast, by the way. But yeah, welcome back to Morons and a Mic. I'm Moron number one, Cody. With me is Moron number two, Ted, who looks so much more clear and we can hear so much better now.
Yeah, guys, I finally got into the current century. I got a mic, I got a camera. I'm getting professional with this stuff now.
Now he can actually read the show notes while, filming. Man, wild week 8. You're going to hear the theme a lot throughout this whole podcast about National Tight End Week because the majority of them showed up.
Yeah.
It was fantastic.
The play callers, they appreciated it. They were like, you know what, we're gonna get in on National Tight End Day too. That's what we're gonna do.
Exactly. All right. Yeah, we had some unexpected players turn out really big games, but if you listen to our Friday episode, you probably started them because we are geniuses and morons.
But only sometimes.
Exactly.
60% of the time, our predictions work every time.
All right, our first game we're going to get into is the Jets and Pats, and I just have to say before you take it away, Ted, did I not call this as my upset of the week, even though it's not much of an upset looking at the standings?
Yeah, it's not much of an upset at the standings, and then the Jets, they fired Robert Saleh, and the defense has taken a big step back. The defense was what was carrying this team while the offense figured it out. Well, the defense all of a sudden is really bad. It's among the worst in the league. I've read the stat, 77% of their opponents' first downs end in a conversion or a touchdown. So a new set of downs or a touchdown, which is bad.
That's really bad.
Yeah, it's really bad. So now, they don't have the defense. The offensive line's been an issue all year long. They haven't been able to get much going in the run game. And just like I said after the Davante Adams trade, it never felt like this team was a Davante Adams away. Like, there's just so many other issues with this team. It's like, great, you got Davante Adams. It does make things a little easier. For example, the one that I noted in our show notes is Garrett Wilson got shadowed by Christian Gonzalez, the really good corner for the Patriots in their last meeting. And yes, he caught a short touchdown, but aside from that, he didn't get much action in that game. I think he had like 3 for 44 and a touchdown or something. Like, it was not a big game by any stretch of the imagination for Garrett Wilson, just because he was who they were focused on taking away. He was getting the attention of Christian Gonzalez. A lot of stuff going on there. Yesterday, Christian Gonzalez shadowed Davante Adams on 80-some-odd% of the plays and didn't allow a catch to Davante Adams. Christian Gonzalez is good. I know. This is the hard-hitting stuff that people come here for. Where Garrett Wilson actually had some room to work, and he had 113 yards on, I think it's 5 catches. So he had a good game. Breece Hall had 80 rushing yards, one of his stronger games. He took a step back in the workload from last week, but still, you see the impact that Adams does have on this team, and he does have a positive impact. Nobody can dispute that. He does make things easier for this team. The problem is there's just not much else going on there.
They weren't a Davante Adams away from being a contender. They were an offensive line away from being a contender.
Offensive line, new play callers, a whole new offensive structure, and a quarterback who's willing to change with the times. So other than that, though, they're right there. They're so close.
They're so close. Oh, man. The most important takeaway for me is obviously the health of Drake May.
Yeah.
We'll see how he progresses through the concussion protocol this week. It didn't look too bad of a hit. And clearly wasn't intentional. But the second thing I want to point out is that Braylon Allen got 12 carries in this game and a goal line carry. He had 10 in the 3 games prior combined.
Yeah.
So something to monitor, which, I mean, Breece is by far and away the best running back on the field yesterday. But I'm a bit confused as to the usage there.
I think they just want to keep him fresh. Braylon Allen is, in his own right, we've talked about this, a very good player who could start for 2/3 of the teams. I mean, shoot, man. You don't think the Cowboys would love to have Braylon Allen right now? it's just unfortunate for him that he's behind Breece Hall, who is one of the few backs that's better. But, when you have two good ones, you play them both. And I think that the Jets are going to end up doing that. As far as Drake May, man, I know we talked about his rushing upside being a thing. He hit 20 miles per hour on that touchdown run. Like, he's a legitimate... Like, if he's healthy and he makes it through the game, I think he's shown enough to where even if, there aren't many weapons around him, and there aren't right now, I think he's still a pretty much set it and just line up lock because what he brings with his legs.
Man, what I wouldn't give to be in my early 20s again. No, I'd never hit 20 miles an hour, but, I could hit like 10.
I was like, wait. What?
I could hit like 10.
I could hit 12 on a good day.
All right.
My foot might explode, but I could do it.
Exactly. You tagged me in a stat on Twitter that I thought was hilarious. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah. Let me pull it up because I want to make sure I give credit to the correct people. I want to try and I'm going to be better at that, especially now that I can see the show notes.
This is a historic stat.
All right. This is from Dan Orlovsky. The Jets scored 20-plus points. They didn't turn it over, and they allowed fewer than 250 yards because, remember, they were playing against Jacoby Brissett for most of the game. In NFL history, teams are 750-1, including playoffs, when generating that box score, with the only loss being the Jets yesterday.
Historic.
Oh, I got another one for you. Remind me on the Commanders-Bears game when we get there. Remind me, there's a historic one there too.
Oh, perfect. Love it. Mm-hmm. Love when people make history for us. All right, let's talk to me a little bit about the Eagles and the Bengals. Last couple weeks you've been talking to me about Jalen Hurts taking major steps back. But he actually looked pretty good in this one.
So regarding Jalen Hurts, we'll start there first. Regarding just Hurts, yes, I don't think I said he took a step back, but I do think he plateaued. I still think he's plateaued at what he is. But his role is so valuable in this offense, and there are so many good players in this offense, that he's still going to be a very good fantasy QB. We saw a lot of tush pushes the other day at 3 rushing touchdowns. Let's, poor Saquon, man, it's got to feel like Ricky Bobby and Cal. Can I get one? But if you get one, I can't get one.
Yeah, you're right.
yeah, you're right. So, it was never that he's a bad player or anything. I just still think he's plateaued a little bit. The Bengals have a terrible defense, which we've talked about on this. But their offense for a couple of weeks there looked like it was coming out of its slumber. It looked like they were going to be able to carry the team through the defensive battles, all that stuff. Well, the last 3 weeks they've scored 17, 21, and 17. And it's not like they're playing great defenses in that stretch. They played the Giants. They played... blanking on the other one right now. Help me out. Look up their schedule.
Didn't they play the Commanders?
I think it might have been the Commanders.
Yeah.
No, it was the Browns. That's what it was. Browns with Winston. They played the Giants, the Browns, and then obviously the Eagles. None of those defenses are very good. The Browns can be if they try, but that was still when they had Deshaun Watson and they weren't really trying. So, I mean, we talked about it before. It's a human element part. But yeah, they've scored 17, 21, and 17. That's just not good enough. And, they didn't have T. Higgins in this game, and that's going to be an excuse or reason. It's a valid reason that people use that, hey, they're missing T. Higgins. It's one of their best players. Yeah, that's great. T. Higgins is probably leaving this offseason. What does that mean for Joe Burrow and Ja'Marr Chase? So I know I have in our show notes here. Burrow, we talked about his reticence to throw deep, right? Ja'Marr Chase had 9 catches for 54 yards in this game. I looked it up. 9 catches for 54 yards. That is not good enough for a guy like Chase, who is not, there are some guys that if he gets 9 catches, like Wan'Dale Robinson, right? If he gets 9 catches at 54 yards, you're like, yeah, that checks out.
That's amazing.
That's his role. That's what he
didn't
does.
Get 10 catches for 15 yards. We're in business.
Yeah. But with Chase, you expect more because he's capable of more. So, yeah, the Bengals have planned for this. They picked Andre Yoshivas last offseason in the draft, I think in the 4th round, out of Princeton. And he's a slot. He profiles as kind of a slot guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't really help you when Higgins leaves, because Higgins isn't a slot player. But they picked Burton in the 3rd round this year. He had a really good profile coming out. He has some major concerns with maturity and head space issues. But if he can get those figured out, this is the talent you want to bet on. He would be probably pretty cheap to buy in Dynasty right now. We've seen a couple flashes from him. In week 2, I think it was, he had a 41-yard catch there on a contested ball downfield. In the game the other day, he had a 41-yard catch. He profiles as the cleanest replacement for T. Higgins. Now, I'm not saying that Yoshivas isn't going to see the field, because I think he will. But I do know that the Bengals also have made it known that they want to get Chase in the slot more. And I don't think Chase is going anywhere, which means that outside receivers are going to get a lot of play time. And if you can go buy low on Jermaine Burton, I think it'd be a worthwhile addition. I'm not saying go spend a 1st-round pick trying to get him, because, again, the maturity issues are very concerning. They've made point of that in the Bengals already. But it is somebody that, if it pays off, it's going to pay off big time.
It's like Kayshon Boutte with the Patriots. Like, he was profiling to be a 1st-round pick at one point at LSU.
Yeah, as a true freshman, yeah.
And then a lot of things combined with maturity issues and stuff. He took a major step back. Patriots took a chance on him, and now he's their leading receiver.
Which is crazy.
Yeah. So it's a very similar situation for me. Chase Brown couldn't get anything going on the ground. And like you said, they look lost without T. Higgins. And if they don't figure it out before they trade him or he walks in the offseason, they're going to be in a world of hurt.
Well, that's the scary part, is they still looked lost the last couple of weeks with T. Higgins. It's a struggle. It's a struggle right now.
It doesn't look good for Zach Stacy right now. I'll leave that at that.
Zach Taylor?
Bengals are pretty much out of it now.
Do you mean Zach Taylor?
Huh? Yeah, Zach Taylor, not Zach Stacy.
Well, his brother is Press Taylor, who may or may not be calling plays for the Jags. So it's going to be a rough family reunion this year.
Yeah.
They might have a lot of time to get together.
Interesting conversations over Thanksgiving dinner.
Oh, yeah.
Where are you going to be coaching next year?
You think you'll be fired at the end of the year, or at week 15?
Which one of us is getting fired first?
Oh, man.
Speaking of the Jaguars, they played a decent game against the Packers.
They did.
And I told you I was starting Bigsby with confidence.
You did.
And that confidence was rewarded.
By the way, we saw Bigsby's role evolve. He was actually used in passing downs. I still don't think he's a natural pass catcher, but if the Jags are trusting him in that role, even if he's not particularly good at it, that is a big bump up. And if he keeps that role when ETN comes back, ETN is going to be essentially useless for fantasy football purposes, and Bigsby is going to be the guy in the backfield because he's clearly a better pure runner than ETN is at this point. And I mean, you can't keep that off the field. We've had this talk about the Bucks, right? We'll talk about them in a little bit, so I don't want to get too much into that. But sometimes you see a guy and he's playing clearly better than the other one, and as he gains the coach's trust, he's gonna continue to do that. Also, This is a really good reminder. I want to just, we kind of focus a little bit more on dynasty fantasy football than redraft. This is a good reminder to have patience with players in dynasty, because Tank Bigsby was a disaster last year, but he's now a valuable dynasty asset. So, be patient. Sometimes it takes these guys a little while. For example, I'm a dum-dum. I traded Cedric Tillman. We'll get into him here in a little bit, but that feels really bad right now.
Feels
bad,
I
hadn't done that. It feels real bad. I hope on the other side, before we run out of time again, hope Jordan Love isn't hurt too bad. They said it's a groin issue. Malik Willis, though, they did prove that they can win games. Obviously, Malik Willis is starting, though. Big downgrade to all your Packers receivers. Josh Jacobs, I think it's an upgrade for Josh Jacobs because the run game seems to be a bigger focus, and he does seemingly run better with Josh Jacobs or with Malik Willis back there. Although he did run obviously hit a couple big ones this game with Jordan Love back there. So yeah, it's a slight upgrade for him. I do want to point out that Romeo Doubs, there was a lot of chatter about him in camp being the Packers receiver you want because of his ability to play the X. They clearly consider him their X receiver, and he was on the field no matter what. Yeah, he got suspended, and since then, he's kind of killing it. He's been their leading receiver in like every game. He's kind of killing it.
I feel like him sitting out made a point to the team, and the team's like, okay, we get it, you're right, but we're still going to have to suspend you for that.
Yeah,
and so it's mutually worked out for both sides, honestly.
It has, and yeah, it allows the Packers receivers. You and I talked about this in the offseason, where the Packers receiver room was really interesting. Well, Jayden Reed he's the best one in there, I still think, because he's so dynamic with the ball in his hands, and he's just such a good player at everything he does. But they still consider him a slot flanker type. He's not really on the field in 2 receiver sets. Hobbs is. And then the other receiver on the field, like Wicks, he has the fewest snaps, but the highest target share when he's on the field. So it's like, all this is kind of playing out.
He just can't catch the ball.
Well, he's been better lately, because that was not an issue. Like, if you look at ESPN's catch score from last year, Wicks was fine. He was like a 60. Like, he's not elite, right? But this year, he was like an abominable, like, 10. In his first 5 weeks, and it was crazy because it had not been an issue at any point. And then the last couple of weeks, he hasn't had the same problems. So I think it was a mental thing. Every receiver goes through that, where like Amari Cooper did that earlier this year, where he couldn't catch, and I think it's just a mental block. But I do want to talk real quick about the Jags. Real quick. We also did see Christian Kirk broke his collarbones out for the year. This is a big bump up for Evan Engram's value, because Evan Engram over his time with the Jags, when Kirk is on the field, he sees 7 targets a game. When Kirk is off the field, Evan Engram sees 10.5 targets a game. With the tight end position the way it is, that is a big increase.
Did you see his TD catch yesterday?
I did. It was insane.
Oh my goodness!
Because it was National Tight End Day.
10 feet up in the air.
He had the Mario
Star
people
on him. It was ridiculous.
He had the Mario Star because it was National Tight End Day, so he was able to do that.
True. That makes sense. That makes sense.
But Brian Thomas Jr. I saw today, it was a chest injury, 2 to 4 weeks probably is what he'll miss. So yeah, Evan Engram, big upgrade. Parker Washington, interesting player, but probably no more than a late, like, very cheap waiver ad.
Yeah, let's not forget that the Jags are not a good team. So
I'd forgotten that. What? This is news to me. Doug Peterson
run
won a
and
Super
grab
Bowl.
whoever the next wide receiver down the list is for the Jags.
No.
There's probably something better out there.
On your bench, probably.
Yeah, most likely.
Yeah.
We can't move on without giving a shout out to Tucker Kraft for his 3-catch, 78-yard touchdown day on National Tight End Day.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't just Evan Engram, showing the chops. It was Tucker Kraft too, who's turned in quite a good year.
Yeah, all the tight ends they kind of killed it yesterday. I know the tight end position's been rough this year, but man, Sunday was not showing that.
Hey, something I learned yesterday that maybe I knew before but forgotten.
Right?
Do you know who started National Tight End Day?
George Kittle.
7 years ago. I love it.
Yep, I did know that.
Anyways, let's talk about the Titans and Lions very briefly. Mostly the Lions.
So
an insane game.
I got a historic stat for you on this one too. Obviously, the teams that have had less than 250 yards of offense or whatever they had, obviously it's happened a bunch of times. The Lions the other day were the first team to score 50 plus. Doing that. First team ever. A lot of firsts yesterday. A lot of very interesting games. The Titans special teams are a complete disaster. They were ranked dead last in DVOA entering yesterday, and they were much, much worse yesterday. And the crazy part is, like, normally when you see that, like the terrible EPA numbers, it's because they missed kicks, right? Like the kicker missed a kick.
Yeah. No, they missed tackles.
They didn't even miss tackles. They missed a bunch of those, but they were 2 for 2 on their extra points. They didn't try a field goal. They didn't miss any kicks. The problem was they can't cover them at all. Can't cover kicks. Like, not even a little.
Nope.
So, 52 points, and Jared Goff had 85 passing yards.
And 3 touchdowns. 85 yards and 3 touchdowns.
When tell you, I saw when you're watching Red Zone, right? And it's got the little clicker of like different games and it's going through the scores, right? And it changes. Yeah. The Lions showed up and I saw 52. It's like, dang, man, they must. I mean, I knew they'd showed the punt return touchdown. They'd shown the other return where they gave him a short field and all that stuff, right? So
yeah,
I knew they'd had some short fields, but still, when you see 52 and then Jared Goff's stat line comes up, it's 12 out of 15 for 85 yards and 3 touchdowns, you're like, what?
Yep.
How'd this happen?
Agreed. I think, in my opinion, the Lions are the best team in the NFL right now. I know the Chiefs are undefeated at the moment, but
Chiefs
to me, looking at the Lions, right now they're the complete package.
I'm still a little concerned about the pass rush without Hutchinson.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't go out and try to make a splash at the trade deadline.
I'd be surprised if they didn't. Rush help. They really need to, because I mean that's
what I said, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay. That'll hurt them. Come playoff time. Like the Chiefs, the reason that nobody they need help. This is why they traded for Hopkins. They know this. The Chiefs know this. Mm-hmm. Because you can get by if you're the Chiefs against these teams that aren't particularly good. But when you get to the playoffs and you're facing better teams that you don't have a massive edge at QB or coach or whatever, those matter. And that's why they traded for DeAndre Hopkins. I still think they need some offensive line help. Their left tackle situation's a mess. We'll talk about that later. But real quick, one last thing on the Titans Lions game, other than how amazing the Lions day was. Alvin Ridley had 80-ish yards receiving the whole year, and then he had 143 yesterday.
15 targets.
Yeah.
Mason Rudolph knows who to get the ball to.
Yes, he does. And now he doesn't have to worry about getting DeAndre Hopkins the ball because he gone.
Yeah. Exactly. And honestly, I hope Levis is back next week. Not for fantasy purposes, just for the memes.
Yep.
I miss him.
It's better.
Miss him. The highlight for me was Sam Laporta getting in on the action finally, getting a nice touchdown pass from none other than high school quarterback David Montgomery.
Yeah. He threw a beautiful spiral. Did you see the pass?
Yeah, it was
amazing.
Great.
It was a really good pass.
It's fantastic. So national tight end week again. National tight end week again. Sam Laporta. All right, moving on to Falcons Bucks.
Let's go.
This game confused the hell out of me.
Yeah, so for the Falcons side, it was a quiet game for Drake London, but that's to be expected with receivers, right? So I get questions sometimes about, this guy he had a bad game. Well, it's a receiver. Just because they average 80 yards a game or whatever doesn't mean they're going to get 80. It means they might have 160, might have a 20, might have a 60, might have 100. Like, it's just.
Wait, is that how averages work?
I'm told. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't really know, but smarter people than me have told me, because I am a moron, after all. So, Cousins is playing really well. It feels like a lifetime ago that we were worried about how his Achilles was holding up. And there was the thoughts that, oh, man, maybe they brought in Penix because he's not healthy. He's playing pretty good. He's playing real good football.
Fantastic.
The receivers are really good. Darnell Mooney's perfect for what he's asked to do. They're getting Kyle Pitts involved, speaking of National Tight End Day. Even though I thought for a second that he got stripped, but right before he got it across the end zone, I thought he got stripped of that one. But, we were curious. Yeah, Kyle Pitts, he's been pretty steady lately, been delivering numbers.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. He had 2 touchdowns in this game, which is more than I think he's had his whole career. So
91 yards, 2 touchdowns, 4 catches. It was really good. This is the Kyle Pitts that kind of we thought we'd see coming out, where he's like a vertical, that speed, the length, all that stuff combined make him kind of a nightmare for defenses. For the Bucs side, We were curious to see who would step up out of the receivers with Godwin
who did
and
I
Evans.
say? Who did I say would step up?
You said K. Dotton, if I remember right. Yeah,
I did.
and that's what I had thought too. But I was still curious to see it. I thought that it pretty much played out like I thought. I thought that McMillan would be the highest target getter, but he wouldn't be super consistent with those targets. I thought Sterling Shepard would be used on third downs to move the chains, reliability type stuff. But I was just curious to see, right? Because just because you think it doesn't mean that the coaching staff agrees. Well, they built most of this passing game out of the receiver or the tight end, K. Dotton, and the two running backs, Bucky Irving and Rachaad White. Because Bucky had 7 catches. Because he can do that. People knock him for his lack of receiving, whatever. He can do that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly, the Bucks had 3 guys with 5+ catches, and they were those 3 guys. None of the receivers. So basically what I'm saying is I'm not interested in any of these receivers going forward. I love the usage for White and Irving, especially as long as Evans and Godwin are out. And even when Evans comes back, the receiving usage for those guys figures to be pretty promising because Evans typically works deeper in the field, and those guys are obviously not going to be running go routes and stuff like that.
Right.
Also, we were a little bit concerned after Sean Tucker's big game that this would be a 3-headed backfield, and last week it kind of was. This week, Sean Tucker played 10% of the snaps. It's not a 3-headed backfield. It's back to the Bucky Irving, Rachaad White show. And Bucky Irving, again, he even with a toe injury that had him questionable to play, that kid looked so good. He looked so good running the football. Like he just like I saw a tweet that said he seems like he moves on 2.5 times speed over what everybody else on the field is moving. And yeah, like that checks out. So he had 16 touches here, 9 carries, 7 catches, and Rachaad White had 11. 6 carries, 5 catches. Rachaad White did have a touchdown. Rachaad White's never going to be gone, but if you're the Bucs coaching staff and you see Bucky Irving running in the open field with football versus Rachaad White, who do you want running the ball more?
Knowing the Bucs coaching staff, I think they'll probably say Sean Tucker.
Yeah.
So speaking of the coaching staff and the game plan here, I'm not sure I understand the game plan of having Baker throw it 50 times in this game when you have both Evans and Godwin out, and then Sterling Shepard goes out in this game as well. But congratulations, Baker leads the league in touchdowns, but he also now leads the league in interceptions. I know it's a little bit kind of game script, happened that way, but
that's what I was going to say. They got down quick. They got down multiple scores pretty quick, and the Bucs are a pass-heavy team, anyways. Like their running backs, they are all good in the pass game. They're going to continue to pass that football, which is one of the reasons that Baker is such a good asset in fantasy football. He's undervalued for what he is because he does scramble a little bit. He brings that, but they're also going to throw the ball a lot. And they're going to continue to do that, whether Evans and Godwin are there or not. Like that thing's
I like Baker, but I just not a huge fan of the game plan here.
Do you remember with Russell Wilson, let Russell Wilson cook, right? Do you remember that?
Yeah,
that saying?
Let him cook.
So
let him cook. He's unlimited.
With Baker, is it let Baker bake?
I mean, I guess it just seems a little too easy, Let Russ
Easy's
cook.
Good though.
Russ and Cook don't really.
I know. I just wanted to be able to say that on our podcast.
Okay. All right. It's just a low-hanging fruit. It just seemed too easy.
I don't care.
One more thing I want to point out from this game before we move on is Tyler Algier had 1 less carry than Bijan in this game. Too bad he didn't do anything with it, but something to continue monitoring going forward. I'm assuming it's going to happen more often.
So Bijan had more work in the passing game, and that seems to be where he's going to make his money fantasy football wise. I
think Bijan had 2 targets?
6 catches. No, Bijan has like 6 catches. I think that's pretty much going to be what they're envisioning him. Because as we've said all year, Algier is too good a back. That's one of the reasons it didn't make sense for me, the Falcons picking Bijan where they did in the top 10, because they had so many other needs. It's like the Penix pick. Great. He could be a great player, but if you already have somebody there,
else on the offensive line or
exactly,
shoot,
or another receiver or a
defense.
Yes, exactly. So it didn't make sense to me. Bijan's a great player. I don't think we've seen anything that makes us question that. But at the same time, the usage is never going to be what you would ideally want for a guy with his abilities as long as Algiers there. It's just not going to happen.
True. All right. Let's move on before we get sidetracked. Cardinals, Dolphins. Tua literally fumbled this game away. I know he only lost 2 of his 3 fumbles, but you got to hold on to the ball, man.
Look, I'm pretty sure the Dolphins will make that deal. They scored 27 points and actually looked like they had a pulse for the first time all year. So,
sure. But I'm sure they would like to win.
They would also like to win. Absolutely. But if Tua stays healthy, they're at least freaking watchable. So, the Cardinals finally used MHJ in a way that best suits him. They've been having him run a ton of go balls, they static deployments. They're not really having him run like think about his huge play earlier this year, the 60-yard, whatever it was, touchdown.
Yeah,
it was a deep over route. It was a deep over, and they basically just didn't do that anymore. It was all along the sideline, all from the X receiver spot, everything. Well, in this game, they had him use a ton of horizontal breaking routes. And think of the touchdown that he had. It was a deep over against Jalen Ramsey. You'd think of there was almost all of his catches were on horizontal breaking routes. And look, Marvin Harrison Jr., I think he's a really good player already, but he is still a rookie. And you gotta help him out. Like the Vikings don't have Justin Jefferson run the same stuff on every single route from the same location on every single play. They don't have him do that. They move him around. They get him different stuff so that he can get the ball in his hands. This was what the Cardinals offense should be, where you got Trey McBride with a crap ton of targets because he's really good. You got Marvin Harrison Jr. with a lot of targets, his second most on the team in targets because he's really good, deeper targets. And then you have Michael Wilson getting a handful of targets. That's what this offense should be. That's what it's kind of designed for, but they've gotten away from that. Kyler played really well in this game, so that really helped. But this is the offense that they need to do going forward. Miami's pass defense was really good. They had allowed the fewest fantasy points to opposing QBs in the NFL this year. I did not realize that because they've been so unwatchable. I hadn't paid attention to them. But that is a real thing. Fair. This is a good defense that they did that to. That deep over touchdown that Marvin Harrison Jr. got, he beat Jalen Ramsey. That's a good player.
Mm-hmm.
So, continue this.
Keep doing this.
The Dolphins showed a pulse. Devin Achane, 97 rushing yards, 50 receiving. This is the type of guy that we all... Yeah. This is the efficiency that we thought we'd see from the Dolphins' run game entering the season that they've been struggling to give us because they didn't have a legitimate quarterback. I still have questions on why didn't you have a better backup QB knowing Tua's injury history? Why can't you change the offense at all, considering if there's a backup QB? All of these are legitimate questions.
Right.
But when Tua's in there, the run game works. Tyreek had a solid game. Jalen Waddle had an okay game. I think better days are in the future. You had to figure there was some rust there for Tua. The Cardinals' defense has been a little friskier than people, including myself, thought. They didn't exactly make it the easiest for him.
Right.
I think better days are coming, but it was good to see them.
Amazing what a quarterback can do for you.
Yes. As we'll get into with this next game, we're going to talk about that.
Oh, yeah. This one's spicy. Talk about letting a game just slip right through your fingers there with a minute left in the fourth quarter.
Hilarious, by the way.
Yeah. Let's talk about the Ravens and Browns.
I'm going to talk about the Ravens first, just because there's not a lot to add here. The Ravens offense is pretty much what we thought. Really good. Lamar Jackson, really good. Mark Andrews is back, 76% route participation the other day. That's, I don't know if he's going to be the top 2 or 3 tight end that you drafted him as, but he's playable.
No, he's your red zone guy.
Yep, and he's playable. That's important. But the Browns, I got thoughts. So in Deshaun Watson's 19 starts with Cleveland, he has thrown for 300 plus yards in exactly 0 of those starts. Joe Flacco and Jameis Winston have hit that mark in 6 out of 7 starts. So I thought I was going crazy. And this
without Amari Cooper.
Yeah, and this is without Amari Cooper. I thought I was going crazy because I really like these receivers. I was, I've liked Tillman for a while. I've had him in a dynasty league. I've had him in a couple dynasty leagues, but I kind of gave up on him.
Mm-hmm.
Elijah Moore, he had a great rookie year with the Jets where he looked like, before his injury.
Electric.
Yeah. Jerry Jeudy was a first round pick, flamed out spectacularly in Denver. It's like, man, like these guys can play a little bit, I thought, and then they come to Cleveland this year, do nothing. You're like, guess I misevaluated all those guys. Well, apparently not. Apparently,
that's
really
the
important.
Deshaun effect.
Yes, the Deshaun effect. It's important to have a QB. So Cedric Tillman, I know we talked about him in the preview episode where we really liked that play because he got 12 targets last week and he had 8 catches for 81 yards, which is a fantastic game. Well, in this one, he has 8 catches, 99 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Yeah, this dude is legitimately good. He is their X receiver, just like we talked about with the Packers, where if they consider you the X receiver, you're pretty much not leaving the field. The Browns clearly consider him their X receiver. And that's why he's playing now. Too. Yep. And that's why he's playing now and not before, because Amari Cooper was their X receiver. And I like Tillman. He's not yet Amari Cooper. There's a little difference in pay scale there, too. But, Jerry Jeudy's not playing the X. Elijah Moore's not playing the X. They can do stuff like Elijah Moore in this game. 8 for 85. Like with Jameis Winston, all of a sudden these guys are all credible players. And Cedric Tillman, I think Cedric Tillman is more. I talked with a friend of ours today. He asked me how much should I put in for my free agent availability budget on Tillman. All of it. You should put all of it in because he's not going to leave the field. He is a possible league winner. If he's averaging, 10 targets a game, 90 plus yards, he's getting red zone work, he's making people miss after the catch. He has forced 4 broken tackles on 18 catches. Like he's making stuff happen after the catch. Yeah, that's really good. So 100% of your free agent availability
100% of your fab is going on Tillman.
All of it.
And like I said last week, I was nervous about Tillman and I wanted to see another week. I'm all in. I was a little wary, but I'm all in. I'm gonna blow all my fab on him everywhere I can.
I can tell you won't be doing that in the 10 team.
I know he's on your team. I know. And in the Vampire League, I see him out there, and I can't do anything about it because not only do you both now get to steal somebody else off somebody's waivers, but you get first chance. Off their team, you get first chance at the waivers too. So somehow,
did you see Parks and Rec?
It is ridiculous. Yeah, I've seen Parks.
With John Raffio, the worst. That's me.
Yeah. A little confused by the Ravens' game plan here. They're up 10-6 going into halftime, and Derrick Henry only had 12 opportunities in this game.
I think it was
the whole game. You're going into halftime up, and your star running back, who's leading the NFL, gets 12 combined touches all game. It's inexcusable, and I think that you saw that frustration for Lamar Jackson there at the end, too. I don't think he understood why it was happening.
No.
But let's move on. Let's move on. Colts and Texans.
Boy. So, Anthony Richardson, we talked about it on the preview show where his completion percentage when kept clean, not under pressure, was 51% entering the week, which was the worst mark in the NFL by a lot. We mentioned that Trevor Lawrence was the next worst at 64.5%. Just an ocean gap between the two. I'm going to go ahead and go way out on him here and say that it's not going to improve after this showing. So we're not going to say anything else about that because I think we know the deal with Richardson at this point.
You're not. I have some thoughts on Richardson in a little bit.
All right.
So I'll let you finish, but just know I'm coming for Richardson.
Do it. Come for him. I might have to defend him. We'll see what you say.
Hey, yo.
But the Texans side, Joe Mixon might legit be the RB1 the rest of the season. He just keeps getting work. He keeps getting red zone opportunities. He keeps scoring touchdowns. He's involved in the pass game. Like, if he stays healthy, all he's doing is putting up numbers. And teams respect the hell out of the Texans pass game for obvious reasons. So, I think it's time to have that conversation about Joe Mixon. Speaking of the Texans pass game, though, first, we're going to get a little positive nugget. Nico Collins has according to the report I saw, not experienced any setbacks. He's going to be back from his hamstring in week 10. So that's great. The NFL is better with Nico Collins in it. And
Perfect.
So is the Texans offense.
What bad news could you possibly have to bring us back down from that high?
In continuing with the theme of the rest of the season of the NFL, whenever you hear something positive, something horribly negative happens as well. And it does look like Stephon Diggs suffered a non-contact knee injury, which typically is bad.
Not great, Bob. Yeah. Not great.
So this Texans receiver room that was super deep entering the year with Diggs, Collins, and Dell, all of a sudden, kind of a sneaky trade acquisition need for them. Diggs, I still believe in Diggs long term, but we've talked about the injury stuff before, where even if these guys are playing, it does not mean that they are back to the previous injury version of themselves. Chris Godwin's a great example. Chris Godwin took like 2 years to show the same explosion that he did before tearing his ACL. Well,
yeah.
Dell had a broken leg and got shot in the leg in the offseason.
As we keep repeating every episode.
Yes. Well, people need to be reminded.
People keep forgetting.
People need to be reminded because
the amount of people I see hating on Tank Dell on Twitter.
It is insane.
Calm down. The man got shot.
Like, give him some time. If he's still not back next year, yeah, be concerned, but it's way too early to be throwing in a towel on him now. But still, from the Texans' perspective, they believe this is a Super Bowl team, a Super Bowl contending team. They need production right now. Dell isn't seemingly going to give him that, at least not yet. Now, at any moment, right, like it could snap on and he's 100%, like Tony Pollard last year where he said he felt like himself in week 11, and lo and behold, his PFF grade and all that stuff went skyrocketing. Well, it could happen with Dell, but if you're the Texans, do you chance that? Diggs doesn't look like he's going to come back this year. Collins is a great player, but he does have a history of soft tissue injuries, hamstrings, and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. And looking at the rest of the receivers on that team, I don't see anybody outside of Dalton Schultz who gets a major bump up for me with Diggs being out. But in the wide receiver room, I'm not looking at anybody and going, yeah, this is a difference maker.
Yeah. John Mechie could have been that guy, but we talk about injuries. Well, he had freaking leukemia. So the fact that he's playing is amazing. Shout out to him.
Miracle.
But, we've seen with multiple players, you take a year off of football because he had to stay alive.
To live.
It's difficult to come back and be the same player you were before. So I don't know if the Texans can really count on him. Yes, he was a second-round pick and all that stuff, right? But he hasn't shown a ton to where, a championship contending team should just trust that he's going to be able to come in here and pick up slack.
All right, one more thing before we move on, because we are starting to do that thing where we talk too much.
Yep.
Anthony Richardson. I told you I was coming for him. The man came out of the game in the third quarter because he was tired.
Yeah. That's
I
crazy.
have never seen a quarterback in the National Football League do that. And I don't think we'll ever see it again.
No.
He has a worse completion percentage than Tim Tebow and Jamarcus Russell in their worst years. And I think the Colts give him the rest of the year, and I don't think anything's going to change, but I don't think he's going to be a starting quarterback in the NFL much longer. I think he gets the rest of the year, and they draft a quarterback.
I'd be surprised if he doesn't get at least next year, too, because the amount of draft capital that they spent on him, they need him to work. And the book on him coming out was that he was an inaccurate prospect that needs time, right? He needed time.
Yeah.
Well, how many games did he play in his rookie season? 4.
I don't know how much time is going to fix the issues that man has.
It don't matter. They're tied to him for better or worse, at least through the end of next year. Now, if he's still terrible next year, if he doesn't improve at all, this is essentially his rookie season. He straight up made 4 starts as a rookie. He didn't have a ton of time in college starting.
Yeah,
he started
and
his
this is where I differ from NFL front offices. I understand you spent a lot of draft capital on this guy, but you have to know when to cut and run.
Right.
Okay. And to me, I am not seeing anything that makes me think he's a leader on the football field and that he's going to be starting quarterback material in the NFL.
I completely understand where you're coming from, and actually I'm not going to belabor the point too much further, but I did think it was really funny that in the post-game interview when they asked him about him coming off the field, and he said, "I'm not going to lie, I was tired." It's like, maybe you should lie. You actually really should lie in that scenario. You should absolutely lie. Yeah. Lie your ass off in that case.
I had a fart and I didn't know if I was going to poop myself, so I sat out.
I was cramping.
Yeah.
I was cramping up real bad.
All right, Bill Seahawks.
Bill Seahawks. Let's go.
I'm glad to see Keon Coleman getting those red zone targets. Mm-hmm. The man is like 6'4", 6'5". He's a giant that can jump really high. So keep using him that way.
Even in college, he was a contested jump ball specialist. He wasn't a great separator, but the Bills are finally using him. And, it does take time. We talked about with rookies, it takes time. Well, it takes time, especially with guys like his, that profile of like jump ball, contested catch guys, because the QB has to learn where to throw it in order for them to come down with it. So it's not just a matter of, it takes time for him to learn the game. It's the QB has to learn him too. This isn't a separator where, I'm going to throw it because he's open. So you throw it to the open space. This is a guy you got to put it in a specific spot. So Josh Allen had to learn it. Khalil Shakir, holy shit. It's like 32 catches on 35 targets or some insane number like that. That is an impossibly high rate. And I keep thinking it's going to come down. And it keeps not coming down. He was 9 out of 10 today. Or yesterday. Just continues to kill it.
He looked good.
Yeah.
The Bills as a whole looked fantastic. James Cook was great, and I don't think we have to worry about Davis taking work from him.
Nope.
But I don't know if this was... I want to give the Bills credit, but I also don't want to overlook the fact that the Seahawks look like an absolute disaster right now.
So I watched some of the game on Red Zone. It wasn't like my favorite game, so I didn't have it up like on the main thing. But
yeah,
they got down in the Red Zone twice when the game was close. And the first time they had that snap that went over Geno Smith's head. So they went from having the ball at Buffalo's, I think it was 3, to having it at the Buffalo 30. They got a field goal out of it. And then second time, 4th down, they went for it on 4th and goal from like the 2 or whatever it was. And Geno Smith got tripped by the center. So they got down inside the Buffalo 5 twice and came away with 3 points. Now, I'm not saying that it would have made a difference in the game script, right? But that contributed to it being a blowout. Like, who knows if it's close then, because Seattle can still play their game, right? If it's a close game.
Right. I was talking more of the Seattle defense. The
Seattle defense, they had a couple really good weeks at the beginning of the year, and it's been bad since then.
Yeah, no, they don't look great, and it's not getting any easier. They've got a healthy Rams team coming up, and then they travel to face the Niners, who are a little banged up, but their defense can still play, unless it's CeeDee Lamb.
Well,
Amari Cooper, 51% of snaps. Didn't get hardly anything in this game, but
no, he had 1 catch, but
he opened up the field for everyone else. So
yeah, it makes those guys slot into better positions for them. So I think that trade is a home run for Buffalo because Cooper does things that none of these other guys can do. It gets Matt Hollins off the field too, which respect to Matt Hollins.
He had that punt fumble return. He recovered that muffed punt.
He is a great special teams player.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. We are running out of time. Let's go. Bears Commanders.
All right. Bears offense had a really rough game. The coaching here, I just do not get it at all. Why are you handing the ball to your backup center on 3rd and goal in a tight game? He hasn't carried the ball, I bet you, since high school. Like I saw Bill Barnwell wrote that Bill Barnwell looked. He hadn't ever had a carry in the NFL. He didn't have a carry in college, which means that at like the earliest he could have done it is high school, or the most recent he could have done is frickin' high school. Yeah. And you're going to do that? You're going to hand the ball to him? Like Caleb Williams had a rough game.
Even DJ Moore in the post-game comments was like, that's been up on the board for a while, but I didn't think we were ever going to see it in a matchup in a game like this.
Yeah. And should have kept it shelved.
Even the players are like, whoa, why?
Yeah, that was bad. And then Yeah, the Bears coaching staff, man, I can't see them lasting through this year because they make so many stupid mistakes that hurt the team. No,
they should hire you.
I'm not remotely qualified. I know that's a joke, but still, no. Because this is when we get to the Shane Waldron thing. I'd be doing the Madden shit. That's not good either. But yeah, Tyreek Stevenson was taunting fans while the game-winning Hail Mary was going.
The ball was snapped, and he's still talking to fans.
And then he's the one.
I got to run over there.
He's the one that tipped the ball up. Yeah, and it's just like that whole play. First of all, the play that they just gave up to Terry McLaurin, the play before that, Eberflus said it's not important, but then you hear Dan Quinn say, "Without that play, we wouldn't have gotten to the other play."
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Eberflus, it sounds pretty important. And then he does the mush rush with 3 guys who aren't even really trying to run. They're just trying to contain him. And he dedicated a QB spy to Daniels, who was near the line of scrimmage. Why? He needs 50 yards and a touchdown, you absolute moron.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? None of that was made any sense at all.
There's going to be a lot of coaching changes this year. I can tell.
My concern is that
even
the
with
Bears
missing
win
some
enough
time,
games.
Jane Daniels, QB 3.
Yeah, he's real good. The connection with him and McLaurin, love it. I was concerned about this game because the Bears defense is real good. Terry McLaurin still got almost 100 yards or something like that. Yeah, it's still really, really good. And
he had more yards receiving than all 3 of the Bears' top wide receivers.
Yeah. Well, that was a little
Moore, Keenan Allen, and Odunze.
So, speaking of Odunze, I know we talked about in the preview show. I'm curious to see what Odunze does post-bye rookie bump. 6 targets, which was second on the team behind Keenan Allen, and he got 2 carries in the run game. To me, now is your chance to try and buy on Odunze because that is typically an indicator that, hey, they noticed this guy's really, really good, and we want to get the ball in his hands more. When they're involving the receivers in the run game and the pass game, this isn't like the gimmicky jet sweep stuff that the Chargers might do with Darius Davis, where it's like, yeah, you have to do it because he ain't getting the ball in the pass game if you don't. This is like they're doing real receiver stuff and involving him in the run game. Yeah, buy low right here.
Yep. And one last thing before we move on, keep an eye on DJ Moore. He looked like he was in a lot of pain after that catch in the 4th, and he was down for a bit. I know they had an injury timeout. He did come back on the field. He only saw 1 target the rest of the game, though. So keep an eye on that the rest of the week. See what's going on there. Maybe bump Odunze up if DJ Moore's out. Let's move on to the Panthers and Broncos. There was a game here. I don't have anything to say about the Panthers other than Bryce Young looks absolutely lost, and I am really sorry to all the fans of football in Germany because here in 2 weeks, you're going to get the Panthers versus the Giants, which is like the ass crack of the NFL versus the taints of the NFL.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's really bad. So we're not going to talk about Panthers anymore because it's just depressing. But on the Broncos side, Bo Nix is QB in fantasy football since week 5. Yeah, he looked really good in this game on Sunday. And with the rushing upside, he is a super flex starter, bye week fill-in. He brings you a nice safe floor and the possibility of spike weeks like this. I think he was underestimated by the fantasy community. Like, yeah, the Broncos still don't have a lot of talent around him. And he was getting, like, Troy Franklin let a ball go through his hands. It was perfectly thrown deep ball. But Nix has shown the ability to overcome it. And since they simplified the offense a little bit, it's going better.
Yep, he's looked good. Adam Troutman, a name I know we haven't said at all this year so far, and a name that I haven't said on my fantasy teams ever. National Tight End Day. Again, I don't know what else to say. All right, Saints and Chargers. Justin Herbert, really good at throwing a football.
Yeah, his PFF grade was...
he's actually not too shabby at running it, too. He's their best running back.
He is. People forget Herbert and Josh Allen had almost identical testing stats at the combine, down to their size.
Mm-hmm.
Allen just plays like he doesn't care. So it's a little different in that respect.
And Herbert played like that his rookie year a little bit.
Oh yeah, he was more willing to take deep shots. He's that's been the thing. People think, oh, he's got this great arm. He throws the ball deep, but he's such a good processor of the game that he's not going to put the ball in harm's way. He had a rough start to the season, partially because it's a new offense, and with his injury, I think what was his injury? It was a foot injury. Yeah, he didn't really play in training camp, like at all.
Right.
First time playing was week 1 in a new offense, with a bunch of new players around him, and a new offensive line. Herbert's great, but yeah, that's going to be
he couldn't
a
have
bit
just
of an
played
adjustment.
Madden to get familiar with it.
He could have done the Jaden Daniels VR set at 20 times speed or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, in week 2, he suffers the high ankle sprain, so now he can't move, and then his tackles get hurt in week 3 and 4. So everybody was ready to freak out. 130 passing yards a game or whatever it was. Since the bye week, the Chargers self-scouted, they've been among the pass-heaviest teams in the NFL because they realized the running game isn't working out so good. Justin Herbert's really damn good at this. His ankle was feeling better so he can actually protect himself. We saw that in this game. He had a 38-yard run. Like, he was able to scramble out, make second reaction plays. The second touchdown to McConkey, he scrambles out. He's showing that ability to do that. He's shown it before, but the ankle being healthier allows him to do that. He had a 96 PFF grade. He's the highest graded player in week 8 in the NFL. Like, he's really good. People knock on him, but you don't think Harbaugh and Greg Roman know this? Yeah, they want to establish the run, sure. But they're not just going to have Herbert throw 20 times a game. He is too good. And the Chargers' run game isn't that good. They're going to keep throwing the ball. I think that Herbert is another buy low candidate, in particular in dynasty formats, because he's going to get better receivers. You got to figure that McConkey, when we talk about the post-bye rookie bump for Odunze, well, McConkey was hurt in week 5 out of the bye, so he didn't really get the bump. In week 6, he was on and off the field with injury, so I didn't really get the bump. In week 7, we see the bump because the Chargers realize he's their best receiver. Like, it's real thing that's going on right now with McConkey. He's a very good player. Yeah. I mean, Jalen Reagor had some nice catches on some deep balls.
But he's still Jalen Reagor.
But he's still Jalen Reagor, and he's still going to fumble it inside the 5 and all that shit. Josh Palmer, he's looking better now that he's getting further away from his own injury, because that's just what the Chargers do. Apparently, they all get hurt. Alvin Kamara looked really good in this game. It helps having some guys back on the offensive line from injury, but I don't think the Saints are going to be doing anything this year, especially with Carr missing some time. Shaheed is out. Like, it's just... Also, can we talk real quick about how Dennis Allen, he doesn't like it when Kendre Miller gets hurt, because Kendre Miller can control that, apparently. And Kendre Miller got hurt again in this game. Dennis Allen is going to cut him probably tomorrow.
Yeah. Accurate. Mm-hmm. I liked what I saw out of Hader more than I did Radler, but I know you have in the show notes that you say he dramatically outplayed him. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't say he dramatically outplayed, but he did look better.
I stand by it.
All right. Chiefs Raiders. We got 2 more games. Chiefs Raiders. Yeah, go ahead. Go with it.
All right. So we talked about this before. Travis Kelce back to being the high target volume guy, 10 catches, 90 yards.
National Tight End Week.
National Tight End Week. I'd expect that to continue, especially if Juju Smith-Schuster's out. Smith-Schuster's back in. I think we can put a cap on just how much volume Kelce gives, because Smith-Schuster's going to be working the same places. They keep trying to make Xavier Worthy a high target player. I just don't see it happening. We talked about in the preview show on press plays, he had 27 routes, 3 targets, no catches. You get hands on Xavier Worthy and the play is over because he's just so small. In this one, he had 8 targets that he turned into 4 catches. I just don't see how you make him a high volume player. Take the deep shot occasionally. He's still useful to the offense because the defenses have to respect his speed. So especially if he gets a free release, he's going to be able to take players with him and open space up for Kelce, Smith-Schuster, anybody else working that intermediate short area of the field, Hopkins. But I think there's no pathway to being a high volume player, I don't think. And then from the Raiders side, Jacoby Myers and Brock Bowers are really good, and that's it.
That's it. This game is the reason why I say the Lions are a better team. The Raiders played like complete ass and somehow kept this close. I remember the Steelers were undefeated at the halfway point of the season a couple of years ago, and this reminds me of that a lot.
The difference is that Steelers team is quarterbacked by super washed Big Ben, and this is not super washed Big Ben. This is still Mahomes, who's still playing well. It's just there's just not like their offense is super consistent. Their success rate is the highest in the NFL. They have the most consistently successful offense. The problem is they don't have any explosive plays. They don't really have any, like, there's just not there.
All right, we've already hit our hour mark, so let's real quick go into last night's game, Niners-Cowboys. The Cowboys are still the Niners, bitch.
Yeah. I mean, honestly.
I don't know how any other way to say it.
The Cowboys, you watch the Cowboys and you're just thinking, there are not enough good players on this team. You know, we've banged on Jerry Jones repeatedly for not bringing in a single running back. Like, oh wait, no, I'm sorry. They re-signed Zeke Elliott and Dalvin Cook, which you know, if this was 2018,
4 years ago,
great, 2018 even longer than 4 years ago. Man, that backfield would have been killer, but it's not.
Yeah,
so it is killer, but to the Cowboys. So Rico Dowdle he's okay, but he shouldn't be your lead back. Like, there's no universe that he should be a lead running back. They knew it coming into the year. This isn't one of those situations like the Niners where Christian McCaffrey, they were counting on him. You don't need to spend anything at running back. They even still spent a 4th round pick on Guerendo. But, you know, this isn't like the Niners situation where you had this guy, he got hurt right before the year started. So you're kind of rolling with what you got. They knew that this running back room was an issue. They knew that they had exactly one really good receiver in CeeDee Lamb. They knew. They should have known.
Jalen Tolbert has looked good.
He has, but he doesn't scare defenses. Like, there's no, like with the Bengals, right? They have Higgins and Chase. Those are two guys that scare defenses that can do stuff for you. Tolbert's had moments, but he's not there yet. He is at least I think he'd be a fine number 3. But who is scaring a defense that against man coverage if they're taking away CeeDee Lamb?
Which, by the way, they did not take away CeeDee Lamb. They tried to.
There were some broken plays in there.
The Niners defense is not the Niners defense of last year.
There were some broken plays in there, like the one touchdown to CeeDee where the two Niners ran into each other. Like, I mean, I don't know if that's a real reflection on the defense playing poorly other than just bad luck. I mean, it's a football field, right? There's a lot of players on the field. At some point, you're going to run into somebody. But yeah, the Cowboys just don't have enough good players. Dak Prescott is throwing into tight windows at the highest rate in the NFL because there's just nobody open. You know?
Yeah.
And
he's also making not great decisions with the ball.
Well, that's partially a product of throwing into tight windows all the time. You have to throw the ball somewhere or take a sack. And guess what happens in tight windows? It's contested catches, and sometimes the defense wins those.
I think Dak looks a lot better if they actually drafted a running back. But
the offensive line is worse. Like, this whole organization is just petrifying itself from the inside out. Like, it's just.
Yep. I like what I saw from Ricky Pearsall. I think they need to continue to get the ball in his hands.
Not that they have all that many other options.
True. Let him run. Obviously, George Kittle might be tight end 1 rest of the season.
Yeah.
And then I just want to say that I traded for Guerendo last week, so clearly I'm a genius.
Yes.
Also,
absolutely.
I won't tell you what I traded for him because that person got over 100 yards receiving from Bo Nix.
Was it Sutton? That was Sutton, huh?
It was Sutton. I traded Sutton in a 5th for Guerendo.
Yeah. Hey, it's a future deal. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
But for Dynasty, just one quick thought on Dynasty. Well, redraft too, but I would go out and try and trade for Deebo Samuel. He almost had a 70-yard touchdown, called back for a tic-tac holding. He's still battling pneumonia. Like, they mentioned that he was using oxygen and struggling to breathe. And if he was doing that, struggling to breathe, that's just pretty good. Pretty good.
Yeah. I mean,
want that.
He did look off last night. There were a few drops that are very unlike Deebo Samuel, but you could definitely see where he would have had a monster game yesterday. That one screen they threw him that he dropped, there was he had like 5 blockers out in front of him and plenty of room to run. That was going to be a huge chunk play.
Yeah.
And that, he just dropped it. It's just,
without Ayuk on the field, Deebo Samuel is a top 10 wide receiver rest of the season. It's really good.
He's got to be a smash play because that's all they have. That's all we got. We will talk to you again on Friday. Have a fantastic week and keep an eye on the injury report.
Yeah. Hopefully you win your matchups.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.